I stood there, a young girl of 18, draped in the beautiful fabric of my wedding dress, my heart pounding with anticipation. This was it, the beginning of my new life in London after marrying my cousin Emo, who was more than twice my age. Back in our hometown, my dreams of adventure and opportunity felt like sparkles of hope. But as I looked into Mo's eyes, filled with pride and expectation, I couldn't shake off the faintest whisper of doubt. Could this be the love story I had longed for? In those early days, my heart swelled with joy as I held our baby for the first time. But soon after my child was born, the vibrant colors of my newfound life dimmed. Emo became more controlling, obsessively checking on me, questioning my every move. Why are you wearing that? Where are you going? His voice cut through the air like ice. I felt trapped, suffocated by rules that turned my home into a prison. The sparkle of my dreams had morphed into shadows of loneliness. As I stared at myself in the mirror, wearing clothes that felt like a second skin, I wondered who had stolen the vibrant girl I once was. Where was the Jemina who danced to the rhythm of joy, unafraid and unrestrained? Instead, there stood a hollow reflection, one filled with questions that echoed in the recesses of my mind. Will I always feel this way? Can I ever be free? When Mo's voice rose, my chest constricted, as if a tightening band were slowly suffocating me. I held my breath, suppressing the urge to cry out, fearing that a single tear would shatter the fragile peace he demanded. Every step I took through our home felt like trudging through thick mud, my legs heavy with the weight of unfulfilled dreams. The walls closed in around me, each painted surface echoing the laughter of a life I had once envisioned, one of love, laughter, and light, now muted into shadows. Every day was a struggle. Emo dictated my wardrobe, forcing me into clothes that didn't express who I was. Slowly, I lost touch with my friends. He monitored my outings, even following me to the supermarket. I felt like a ghost in my own life, fading away while the world continued to move without me. I longed for those days filled with laughter and love, but instead, I remained silent, my heart heavy with sadness and frustration. When my child reached for my hand and smiled, I felt a flicker of warmth, but it was quickly shadowed by the guilt of my own despair. How could I be a beacon of joy for them when I was drowning in a sea of sadness? The laughter I shared felt like an act, a mask hiding the turmoil swirling inside, desperate to break free. As I rocked our child to sleep, the soft cooing reminded me of simpler days spent laughing in the sun with friends. I could almost feel the warmth on my skin and the lightness in my heart, a stark comparison to the chill of my current solitude and the weight of unspoken fears gripping my thoughts. Nights blurred into endless darkness, the weight of loneliness pressed on me like a heavy blanket. I cried silently, no one to confide in, no means to escape. Mo's love had turned into a string of harsh commands. As I held my child close, I felt a fresh wave of despair wash over me, like the tide that devours the shore, relentless and insatiable. Deep inside, the echo of my laughter that once filled this room faded into silence, replaced by whispers of doubt that clawed at the edges of my heart. I felt invisible, yearning for affection, from him, from anyone, but I was met with cold indifference. There was a time when I believed love would flourish, but now, I was locked in a cage of my own making, searching for a way to break free. I knew I needed a change. Each day that crept by became a reminder of my lost identity, someone vibrant and full of life, now reduced to a whisper of my former self. I craved the connection I once thought we had. It was a longing that gnawed at my insides, pushing me ever closer to the edge. Then, a glimmer of light shone through the darkness. A wedding invite arrived from one of our community leaders in Milton Keynes. The thought of attending filled me with a mix of excitement and dread. Would Emo allow me to go? My heart raced, not just at the idea of celebrating love, but at the possibility of rediscovering myself amid familiar faces. As I envisioned the joyous atmosphere, the thought of community, laughter, and perhaps even a fleeting bond with friends began to stir hope inside me. When the day finally arrived, I felt like a butterfly emerging from its chrysalis. I donned my favorite dress, a colorful ensemble that Emo would have disapproved of, but in that moment, I didn't care. As I entered the wedding hall, the rhythmic beat of music wrapped around me, pulling me to dance and celebrate. My laughter rang out genuine and uninhibited, mingling with the joy of people around me. For the first time in years, I felt a flicker of the woman I once was, and it was intoxicating. In the midst of twirling and laughter, I caught sight of someone familiar, Kofi, a childhood friend whose presence ignited memories of laughter and freedom. Our eyes met, and I felt a rush of emotions, nostalgia, excitement, and a spark of something more. He stepped forward, his smile warm and inviting. Kofi too had arrived in England to study at the university. As we exchanged stories, those little moments of connection lit a fire of desire and possibility within me. I began to wonder if there existed more than just the bleak confines of my marriage. Kofi's charm overwhelmed me, pulling me into a place of joy and temptation. Each word he spoke filled my lonely heart with warmth. I felt understood for the first time, a woman, an individual, not just Mo's wife. As our laughter mingled with the music, the weight of my reality danced away, leaving behind only the question of how far I was willing to go to feel this way more often. How could two worlds coexist, my obligations as a wife and a mother, and this beautiful yearning for freedom? That night, beneath a blanket of stars, my heart raced with uncertainty. I felt caught between two paths, the life I was expected to lead and the freedom that seemed just out of reach. I looked towards the horizon, the moon illuminating the shadows of my doubts. I knew I had to make a choice. Could I find the strength to reclaim my life? Would I dare to take a leap into the unknown, or would I retreat back into silence? As the wedding bliss faded, reality knocked gently at my door. I returned home, my heart pounding with a newfound determination. The laughter of the wedding still echoed in my mind, filling me with renewed strength. I couldn't continue suffering in silence, nor could I let Emo control every aspect of my life anymore. It was time to fight for the woman I was meant to be. For my children's sake and my own, I would find a way to break free, not just from Emo, but from the expectations that had bound me for too long. The journey ahead would not be easy, but it was a journey I had to take. In the suffocating silence of my home, a fire ignited within me, a desperate need for freedom. I couldn't take it any longer. My heart raced as I stared at my phone, the glow illuminating my path out of this prison. I hesitated only for a moment before I typed a simple message, "Kofi, can I come to stay with you?" My finger hovered over the send button, the gravity of my choice heavy on my heart. I had a child to protect, a future to reclaim. The thought of stepping into the unknown terrified me, but staying felt like a death sentence. I hit send and held my breath. Within moments, my phone buzzed, and Kofi's reply filled the screen. "Of course, Jemina. You and your child can come anytime. I'll be waiting." Relief washed over me, mingling with a sense of impending adventure. Kofi had always been a comforting presence in my chaotic life, a reminder of laughter, warmth, and possibility. I knew this decision would come with risks, but the thought of being enveloped in safety and care fueled my determination. The next few days were a blur of preparation and quiet anxiety. I packed a small bag under the cover of my child's innocent laughter, each item a promise of a new beginning. I chose clothes that represented the woman I was, bold and free, not the muted shades Emo insisted I wear. Every stitch of fabric carried hopes and dreams for a happier future. I worried what would happen if Emo found out. He had a temper that could shatter glass, but I had to risk it. My heart thrummed with the urgency of the moment. I was ready to reclaim my life. On the day of my escape, I felt a whirlwind of emotions, a cocktail of fear, excitement, and determination. With my child's tiny hand in mine, I stood at the front door, the world beyond calling to me like a siren. Every creak of the floorboards beneath me felt like a countdown, an echo reminding me of the time I had spent trapped in that house, suffocated by despair. I took one last glance at the home that had become my prison and stepped outside. Freedom, at last. Kofi's apartment enveloped me like a warm embrace, a stark contrast to the cold reality I had left behind. I felt the tension seep out of my shoulders as Kofi pulled me into a hug, his arms strong and reassuring. "You're safe now," he whispered, and I believed him. I glanced down at my child, who crawled into Kofi's side without hesitation, sensing the safety and love radiating from him. For the first time in a long while, a glimmer of happiness began to bloom in my heart. As the days turned into weeks, love blossomed between Kofi and me, yet the shadows of our reality loomed large. Our community had eyes everywhere, and whispers followed me like a thick fog. What will people say? I pondered anxiously one evening. Kofi caught my gaze, his expression hardening. "Let them talk, Jemina. You found your joy, that's what matters." His fire ignited a spark in me, pushing aside the fear of judgment. Still, my heart ached with worry. What if they found out where I had gone? What would Emo do? The love I discovered with Kofi was unlike anything I had ever known. With each shared glance and tender touch, my heart began to heal. We built an oasis of happiness, filling our days with laughter and love. Cooking together became a ritual, a way to connect more deeply. With every meal prepared, every laugh shared, I felt the pieces of my broken heart coming together, reshaping me into a woman who dared to dream again. I cherished the moments when our child giggled at our antics, reminding me that joy could flourish even after despair. However, the relief of my escape quickly faded as reality set in. Rumors spread like wildfire through our community, twisting my story into scandalous tales. A local newspaper even published an article about my departure, accompanied by judgmental comments and harsh words. Kofi faced the brunt of this scrutiny, his friends turned to whispers of betrayal, and the gossip cast a pall over our happiness. "How could you harbor a runaway wife?" they questioned, their judgment palpable. Yet, amid our joy, the threat of the outside world loomed. One evening, As we sat wrapped in each other's arms, laughter faded when we heard the hushed tones of a conversation through the thin walls. Words like shame and scandal drifted into our space, sending chills down my spine. I clutched Kofi's hand tightly, the fear reviving shadows of my past. How far would they go to punish our love? The terrible weight of society's judgment bore down on me, and I wondered if our happiness was truly safe. Kofi became a fortress amidst the storm. I admired his bravery as he faced the neighbors who had once been friends but now turned against him. Jemina isn't a criminal, she's a woman seeking her freedom, he asserted, his voice unwavering. He stood firm, challenging the status quo. I watched him fight for me, for us, with a strength that left me in awe. Each time he faced disapproving glances, my heart swelled with pride. We were not only battling for my right to choose but also for the love we were forging in the fires of adversity. Life gradually took on a new rhythm. Kofi and I created a haven amid the chaos, a place filled with love, laughter, and the scent of dinners shared. Despite the whispers of disapproval outside our door, inside, we were home. Every time we cooked together, I felt the weight of the world lift, as if the simple act of sustenance tied us closer. Our shared dreams began to take shape amidst the uncertainty, paving a path to stability that seemed all but impossible months ago. Love blossomed between Kofi and me, igniting sparks of joy that brightened even the darkest moments. Day trips to the park, laughing under the sun, felt like stolen moments of paradise, a reminder that we could forge our own happiness despite the challenges surrounding us. With every shared glance and tender touch, my heart healed a little more. I had moved from the shadows of despair into the light of love, and it felt intoxicating. As the seasons passed, our family grew, and so did my happiness. When I discovered I was pregnant with Kofi's child, joy erupted within me like sunshine breaking through storm clouds. Together, we navigated the roller coaster of parenthood, filled with sleepless nights and endless laughter, weaving memories that would bond us for a lifetime. I realized I was no longer trapped in a life of silence, I was immersed in a beautiful cacophony of love and chaos. Kofi's unwavering support began to earn him newfound respect in the community, as others started to see the strength of our bond. Conversations shifted from scandal to admiration for someone who represented love over judgment. He showed that standing by the one you love transcended societal expectations, a lesson that resonated deeply with many. He was no longer viewed as an outsider. He was a beacon of hope in a community torn between tradition and change. As we settled into our new rhythm, I marveled at the sanctuary we had created. Kofi and I made promises through acts of love rather than words. Each day spent together wove stronger threads of connection, replacing anxiety with joy. The complexities of our past faded, replaced by a future filled with possibilities. We had faced the judgment of our community, yet in the heart of our home, we knew we had forged something truly beautiful, a family built on love and resilience. As I stood with Kofi, looking out into the darkened streets, I realized that I had come too far to allow anyone to strip away our happiness. We had forged our own path, one filled with love, laughter, and the pure magic of family. In that moment, I understood that love wasn't just a fleeting emotion, it was a force of nature, a power strong enough to conquer all the darkness that sought to diminish our light. Together, we would continue to defy societal expectations, building a future not just for ourselves, but for our children, who deserved a world woven with acceptance and love.